I am back with my dear friend Carly for your monthly energy forecast. I share the oracle card that I pulled for the month of June and what the image of the waterfall means for us. Carly explores some important astrological transits for June, chapters closing and new ones beginning. This episode is jam-packed with takeaways, including how to live a life on purpose, recognizing that the time will be spent no matter what. So how are you choosing to spend it? How a daily self-care practice enables you to be your own candle in the darkest nights. The magic of finding your soul tribe while also honoring your individuality and sovereignty. We discuss viewing personal development as an experiment and an adventure. We are on an information gathering quest. An embodiment of this information is daily practice. We talk about what your personal GPS looks like. Do you know your current location? And do you know your destination, your North Star? Do you even know how you got here? Carly and I explore utilizing neuroplasticity in our favor and deciding our own programming on purpose, and how we can use the practice of writing to imprint this programming. We talk about using a visual cue to help bring us back to our soul and maintain momentum. How to make our thoughts more abundant, not in quantity, but in quality. This episode reminds us that the answers are never outside of ourselves, even when the mind convinces us that they are. June offers us a portal to come home, to transition from our mind to our heart, and an opportunity to choose what it is that we are available for. This season asks us to take up more space, to be unapologetic, to take our role as a leader, and claim our power. I'm so appreciative of you sharing your time with me and with Carly and allowing us to be a part of your day. Thank you so much for listening. Welcome back to the Self-Care Sermon Podcast. I'm your host, Coco, and this is your sanctuary where we discuss self-love and self-care practices meant to amplify your authentic radiance. After working in the beauty industry for over 20 years as a certified makeup artist and licensed esthetician, and later becoming certified as an Ayurvedic health instructor, I take a holistic view on self-care. I want to empower you to release the pressures surrounding the endless and unfulfilling search of how to be outwardly beautiful. And instead, I want to inspire you to create a life that is full of beauty. How are you, by the way? I didn't ask you that.
I am better than I've ever been. So, how
That
are
gave
you?
me chills. I'm not better than I've ever been,
Okay,
but that's okay.
totally. It's all okay.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, yeah.
um,
It's
yeah,
just
I
a
think
thing.
it's just a season right
It
now.
is
Yeah.
always.
So anyway,
It's temporary, no matter what
it's,
it is, you
yeah,
know? I'm very
yeah.
aware of that as I am in this moment of like, look how good it is. That like savor,
Yeah.
savor, because it wasn't that long ago that I was painting art that represented the endless abyss of darkness and pain.
Mm,
And that was like within 6 months ago, like
yeah.
7 months ago, like, so, just enjoy it, whatever it is. It's
Yeah.
just a
Mm,
season.
it is just a
Yeah.
season. Mm,
Yeah. So that's how I am. But
okay.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
excited about like, we planted some pretty powerful seeds in the last episode that we recorded together.
Yeah.
And you, being the rock star that you are, like spent time and made a BBV and sent it to me. And I got to read it and I reread it and I related to it. And I felt like my eyes were opened
Mm,
on some energy that like I definitely related to and had never articulated like so clearly.
Mm,
And just it gave me like a whole confirmation, which by then was like mostly unnecessary, but it was just like another confirmation that like, look at how valuable this is.
yeah.
And like, how much did it cost you?
A beautiful day. A beautiful day. A beautiful
Some
morning that
time.
I had. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of just
Free,
exploring that.
free.
Yeah, it's so funny that you brought that up because I was contemplating, what has transpired between our May episode and now. And because of how stormy and busy this last little stretch of time has felt for me, I, you and I have been texting back and forth, and I'm like, oh, I want to do more with this and talk to you about this like offline, you and me connect, because there was so much that came up for me when I did my BBV, but I haven't been able to revisit it. And so even you bringing that back to the surface now is like a lot more of an awareness of how this last month was so up and down, which is very
Okay.
much a bit what we talked about, I think, on that May episode. And there was kind of going to be these two different energies that we were feeling at the first part of the month and the last part of the month. And I can kind of look back and see that now.
Same.
Yeah. And with doing my BBV, and even you just bringing that now and us like doing this June episode already, seeing how fast May went, it's such a reminder for me to hold on, reconnect. Time is moving. Where are you at? How am I participating with it?
Yeah.
Where's my presence?
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm curious to hear kind of what that opened up for you, not to spend too much time on our May chat. I know we have a lot to cover with June, but what did you feel? Because I know that after I sent you mine, you revisited yours as well.
hmm
So what kind
hmm
of cracked open for you?
I think it's worth it to take a moment and really honor, like you said, like how fast May is just over.
Yeah.
Like that happened and now we're here.
Mm,
It's so fast, Like I was talking to a client yesterday and we were kind of together, like imagining, like, right now we're about to see how May ended, like numbers wise, like for the business. And
mm,
we didn't do any of these things on purpose in May. So we're going to get our results no matter what they are. And we're going to have to live with them. Like it's just, it is what it is. But imagine June. Imagine the end of June where you do it on purpose,
mm,
the way that you meant to. 4 weeks is a long time and it happens very fast. So 30 days of like conscious attention, I mean, it can change your whole trajectory. And like I'm thinking about that because I'm coming up not in June, but in July. It'll be 10 years of daily self-care
mm,
since the anniversary of that commitment. And so, like, thinking about how fast the last 10 years have gone, disappearing month by month by month. And one of the phrases that I found before I ever made that commitment, probably a couple years before, was like, the time is going by no matter what you're doing. So whether you're tuned in or not, like the time is disappearing. So when you think like, oh, that's going to take a long time, like, because that takes a year, or that takes 4 years or 10 years to do that. That's a long time. I can't even think about it. And it's like, yeah, but you're going to live 10 years no matter what. So you could have your hands on the steering wheel and choose where you're trying to go, maybe, or just don't even think about it and just kind of take what comes. And I think there's a lot of people who do that. And I know that's what I was doing, which is more like a programming led version of just kind of letting the past recreate itself through you in more and more extreme ways until you decide that I don't like it. actually I'm effing done with this. Was how my version went in July of 2016 was a low point of a low point of like the dark nights of the soul, the hard ones before I had my spiritual awakening, like where I'm just in the dark and I've got nothing. Those are hard. And after committing to daily self-care, I don't feel like I've ever had one of those again. I've had dark nights of the soul, but I mean, I've had my little candle of
Yeah.
like, I'm my own light. And that's very different. It's still hard, but it is very different. And so the last 10 years, like having my own little light and every day giving it 10 minutes of my attention, like that was my bar. That's what counts as a day of self-care is 10
Mm.
minutes of something that's I'm like tuning into myself. And so yeah, the how fast it goes by is worth sitting with for a moment. And so is like thinking about what did open up in May, because the thing about like not revisiting it that's like actually really powerful from like a psychology of learning kind of standpoint is the idea of incubation and
Mm.
how like when you will plant a seed and it's very close to nature, like when you'll plant a seed and then water it and then like walk away for a while and then like come back and like pour some water on it and then walk away. Like you're not meant to like sit there and like watch the seed, you know?
Hmm.
So incubation, the idea of like letting it rest, like just let it go, let it sink down in for a while and then
Mm.
bring it back up. Like that's valid. So there's zero shame in I touched it once and then I didn't revisit it and now we're revisiting it,
Right.
you know? So yeah, this question of what cracked open, like especially where last time we spent like 90 minutes going through the things. And I feel like I've got some things that are written down that would be super powerful to unpack. And I think we would have plenty of time to still get there and check in on this question of like, who do you think you are? How did that live inside your mind over the last like 4 weeks? How much was it there? How much was it incubating?
It's so fun and interesting, I think, to look back. And I talk about this a lot on the podcast. And I use that nature analogy so much on the podcast because nature is our greatest teacher, our greatest lesson. And going into the May episode and talking about, who asking that question, who do we think we are? Who do I think I am? Sitting down with my BBV, really feeling into this whole month that oracle card that I pulled, the thorn, and how was I taking care of my heart? And so looking back, you can really see how the energy all played together because I was very aware every morning during my meditations of checking in with my identity, coming back to that question, coming back to my body with Taurus season, and just tuning into who do I think I am and how am I going to show up today? And there were so many things, really, it was just with my normal job this last month that were so busy and so demanding. And I'm still coming, I have a couple more weeks of this season. But what I could keep coming back to was who am I in this situation? I might not be able to diminish the workload or delegate things or somehow work less hours than what's demanded of me in this season. This is what it is, but it is a season. But how am I showing up within this space? How can I bring more of myself into this space? And kind of going back to that thorn card that we had pulled for May, it was things might feel a little thorny. I do feel that my boundaries had potential to be compromised with work and with people and with demands and asks. There was that potential there for me to soften boundaries in a way that could have been more self harming. But coming back to who do I think I am and remembering that protection of my sacred heart and my vessel, I think helped carry me through that really challenging season. And back to your point about the BBV, me doing it and then not touching it again, I agree. It needed time. It has needed time to incubate, especially
Yeah.
because when I sent it to you, I said, there's some of this that makes it more obvious to me how out of alignment I feel that I'm living. And that had piqued your interest. And you and I will hopefully be able to chat more offline about that. But because in doing the BBV, I had this awareness of, oh, wow, this is my brilliance and these are my blind spots and these are my values. I'm living a little bit more into the blind spots right now. I'm not using my brilliance as much and I'm kind of playing into the more shadow aspects that I can dip into. Not bad, not, of course, as we've talked about, the blind spots aren't bad, but it's these facets of me that are the more shadowy aspects, the overworking, the overperforming, the perfecting, those wounds kind of taking front and center rather than the brilliance. And so when I had sent that to you and said, this is highlighting the ways in which I don't feel like I'm living in alignment. And then having that play out a little bit in the way that it did in May. It's like looking back now, I went into all of this as sort of an information gathering month. And because I knew the work season that I was going into and the demands that were going to be on my plate, knowing I probably wasn't going to be able to unpack my BBV in the way that I wanted to, all I could do every morning during my meditation was check back in with how do I want to show up today? Make that choice, make that decision, step into the work, the stress, the really late, long days, and the next day try and do it again. And instead of punishing myself or feeling like, oh, I'm so out of alignment, or I'm operating from these shadow aspects, or I'm questioning the strength of my boundaries, I just stepped back and looked at it from this information gathering month of, okay, I see how that pattern's showing up. I see the questions that are coming up. I see the way that I'm feeling insecure. And through it all, keeping that center focus on just protecting my heart, being self loving, not being judgmental of myself through it, not creating more pressure and hardship within my own being. That is really how I came out of the other side of May. And you don't know that and you don't feel that until you have moments like this where we're being, just like you said, very intentional with our time. Now, with the information that I gathered, what do I want to do for June?
Oh my God. I love you so much.
I love you.
I love that we're fucking here. Like,
Yeah.
it makes me want to cry.
Mm. Mm.
I'm just sending some gratitude back up the chain as far as like Kathy Heller is the
Mm.
reason that like we know each other. And we both like took that step of joining her monthly membership, and like it was a weekly Zoom and like Facebook community. And I think I sent out a flare of like, I have a podcast. I would be open to being a guest. And she was doing a whole thing about podcasting. So there's tons of podcasters. And I'm pretty sure you responded
Yeah,
to that message. Like, is that how we know each other?
that's,
Pretty sure.
I,
Okay.
yeah, it was like, hey, I'm exploring this podcast thing too.
Yeah.
Let's do a trade. That's how it started.
Yeah.
I'm sending the gratitude up as well in that moment because I haven't said this to you and it's been recent over the last like month or so where I have had this almost knowing that you and I, like, yes, we met through the Kathy Heller membership, but there is such a resonance with our friendship and it feels past life. Like it feels like there's a
Hmm.
familiarity with you. And that has been coming through. It really was strong at our last recording, maybe even the one before that. But when you had sent me a voice note a couple of days ago, hearing your voice, there was almost this familiarity, not the familiarity that we've built over the last, whatever, few years that we've been now
Yeah, I was
connecting.
trying to think. I mean, 2 years
Got to be
would
about
be
2 years.
almost a max because I'm pretty sure it was 24
Yeah.
when I was doing that podcast that sent me towards that. So,
Yeah. But it just, there's a much deeper resonance and familiarity that feels, yeah, past life, very soul contract with you. And I'm
yeah.
so grateful because it's just such a safe space to come into these conversations and explore with you and not feel the need to be on or have all the answers or know all the things or say the perfect thing. Just come and, yeah, crack open with you and just share and talk and see what comes up. So it's a
That was,
gift.
it is a gift. And that's why I cried because I was like so freaking grateful for like, I cannot believe I have a person that I can sit across from and have conversations like this. I prayed for this,
Yeah.
you know, like for a friendship where we said things like this to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so just listening to you say all of that, it was just almost like surreal that like
Mm.
you're real.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was like really cool. Thank you so much for that. I
Mm.
got my happy tears in for this morning. And one of the things that you said in your BBV, I literally laughed. Yes, this one. I wrote LOL next to it, so I would remember this is the funny one. Not everyone asks to be cracked open.
Mm.
And I was like,
Yep.
yes, God damn it. Didn't they all agree to that when they came into Earth School? No, not technically. Timing plays a part, and
Yep.
trusting the timing and trusting that not everyone is designed to evolve at the same pace.
Mm-hmm.
I also often forget that. And then I also often create forward-leaning pressure. God, you said things and I was just like, that's wow. Thank you for shining a light on that because yeah, me too. Like I often rub people the wrong way sometimes, like for
Mm-hmm.
those reasons. And it is like my own fear in that moment leading instead of trusting the timing and my
Mm-hmm.
instincts for like presence and when and the right thing to say at the right moment that's like, would you say, like faster than strategy,
Yeah.
intuition, like in the moment, like just it's like magic, you
Well, and
know?
I think it speaks so much to, and I think a lot of my listeners will relate to this, where we're living in a world where everything is so fast and big and everything is just about consumption and, I call it fame for no reason, and it's just noise and it's
Mm,
all of this stuff. And working in the corporate world, and, both of us have jobs outside of these types of conversations, outside of our spiritual practice and our passion and our podcast. And I say this all the time on the podcast. I work in the corporate world in downtown Seattle. Like, it's such a far cry from my nature to commute into the city a good hour, 45 minutes into the city, crammed in a light rail in skyscrapers, all surrounded by, not a tree for as far as I can see. I'm in a fluorescent light building all day long. You know what I mean? It's so easy for me to feel disconnected from myself and my soul when I'm in that setting. And so, especially it's been the last few weeks where the work demands that season is asking more of me, and it is just a busier, more stressful, more demanding time. That is what I mean, where it's like I see that shadow aspect come up and it makes it more frustrating because not everybody wants to be cracked open. And this really isn't a setting. Everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, a lot of people who I work with who are in that setting, that's where they thrive. They are in their dream job, they are doing what they love. And that's beautiful and okay and wonderful. And we need corporate leaders and we need these businesses that help our economy. And I love that people have passion within that space. But when I'm feeling so disconnected from my truth and my purpose and myself and my soul, that is what I mean, where it's like that shadow aspect comes up and it's like, why can't everybody be cracked open? Why can't you see that like what we're doing sometimes just feels so silly and small in the, I start spiraling into that existential crisis, but then I have to come back to what you're saying, where it's like not everybody is asking to be a spiritually enlightened master. I'm obviously exaggerating. I don't view myself that way, nor do I ascribe to be that, but not everybody is going to speak this same language or have that intuition or think about things through a spiritual lens. And that's okay. But I notice when it comes up in me in those highly stressful moments in that setting where things feel really frustrating and I feel more separated than ever. I feel like more of an alien than ever. Like I don't fit here. I can't have a conversation with you about designer shoes because it just doesn't land with me. It's that where that starts to come up. And so just going back to what you're saying of being grateful to be in spaces where I can have just open, authentic conversations about what I'm really passionate about and what lights me up. It's such medicine and nourishment for me when I don't feel like my soul gets fed this in my 9 to 5.
Just taking all of that in because it's such a good ground if you're open to it for like like we did last time with making the astrology as practical as possible.
Yeah.
Um, last time we were very much using my life and my work and my identity transformation, and I'm still, cooking on all kinds of things that are popping up and being birthed, new into the world that are having a life force of their own. So, like, I feel like we both have these real lives that, what makes this kind of conversation unique is the embodiment
Mm-hmm.
of like, this isn't purely theoretical. Like, we are truly trying to apply what it is that we're talking about here.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's not a straight line, folks. It's an experiment where we're basically on a giant adventure and getting to discover what is even going on, what works, what does not work. It's a progression, it's an evolution. We are making tiny discoveries and having gigantic impacts that, like, what I want to say back to what you're saying is like the kind of awareness that you're describing of like making the BBV and then seeing that actually, if I'm looking at my life, I see more blind spots like more of the time. Not that the brilliance isn't there, because of course it is, especially in these intentional spaces that I've cultivated. It's exactly where my brilliance is. And like, wouldn't we all love to like spend more time there? Like, I mean, I think the just even seeing where you are,
Yeah.
like, God, it's so powerful. And people have
Yeah.
such an aversion to reality. It's, like hard to build a castle on quicksand.
Mm-hmm.
And when our grasp of reality is not super firm, like our ability to direct ourselves to where it is that we really want to go, like is nearly impossible. Like if your GPS has no current location, how is it going to give you directions?
Right.
So like you're saying, like plugging in every morning and asking that question of like, who am I and how do I want to show up? And then witness like what is pulling on you,
Mm-hmm.
the patterns
Witness.
that, are there. They
Mm-hmm.
are there. We have tendencies, we have habits, we have wiring.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also have neuroplasticity and the choice to, like basically put our hands on the steering wheel of our programming. And I'm not sure if you and I have ever talked about this before, as far as like my love affair with programming,
Mm-hmm.
because it gets such a bad reputation as being like the bad guy and we're trying to get rid of it. And I don't personally resonate with that. I don't like to vilify things. If I can avoid it, I like to find how they're useful. I believe we talked about that last time. So, like, how is programming useful is this connection with neuroplasticity and the idea that basically the programming never ends. It's just you get to start deciding what you're programming yourself with.
Mm-hmm.
Like you get to do it on purpose. You get to start writing the story yourself, like by yourself, because that's how you want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
You made it like that because you like it that way. Like it's that simple. Like you don't have
Yep.
to have a big, long, big, huge, heavy thing about like, because of this thing from the past and this thing that I went through and I deserve it because of like, I want it because I like it like that. So I made it like that because I'm an extension of source and I can create whatever reality I choose.
Right.
It's not heavy, it's easy. But when we're trying to drag all the reasons of why do we deserve the thing, so this gift of programming, this gift of like getting to choose on purpose what you consume
Mm-hmm.
and what you don't consume. Like going back to your point about like I don't want to have a conversation about the brand of your purse. Like,
Right.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. You just
No.
won't find Carly in that conversation.
Yeah.
That's not something I want to spend my time on. And because of individual sovereignty and agency, you get to do whatever you want while I get to do whatever I want. So like there's no, it's like completely neutral that I don't want that.
Yeah.
I don't like it like that personally. I would rather be talking about the life philosophy that guides how you show up every day. It has nothing to
Yeah.
do with the brand of your bag, although that might be affected by what we talk about, but like it's not the point. So like it just is a different way. And the whole point of this larger astrological time that we are living through is very much about the individualization. Like we are all unique. We all came here for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the question for this month. I love how last month boiled down into this like one question that we really like circled around and we added to it and it just kind of left its mark, this contemplation that was opened with that simple little question. And I've got one for this month, which is, last month we're talking about who do you think you are? And this month, my question is, why are you here?
Mm.
And there are icebergs underneath that question, not just
Oh
one,
yeah.
but multiple. Because why do you think you are here?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Here is where you are. It's that current GPS location. So it asks, where are you? The
Mm-hmm.
question. And it also asks you, like, who do you think you are? Why are you here? It holds within it your mission, your purpose, your individuality
Mm.
that has nothing to do with what anybody else is doing,
Right.
right? Nobody can show you the map because you are the map, your
Mm-hmm.
inner guidance, your compass, your checking in with yourself. How do I want to show up? Who am I in this situation? Like, I love that question. And it goes so well with, like, yeah, like, it's a natural next step to ask, like, why do I think I'm here? And so related to how do I want to show up in this situation?
Mm-hmm.
It's really like gets down into your values and like what is most meaningful. So, yeah, this is a very potent time to not necessarily like overhaul our whole life, but to recognize the value of a 10-minute check-in every morning and a once a month 90-minute sit still and be with it. Honestly, just look at it. That's all you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
Gather the information. I love that you said that. This is an information gathering month. This is an information gathering year. This is an information gathering lifetime. Okay? Like that's all we're ever doing. And there's always more information,
Yeah.
and all of it's useful.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's what I've learned about the value of judgment, and I'll say this one more little piece, and then I'm dying to hear what's going through your head. Um, the value of judgment is that we would have a relationship to this world where we can see our individuality.
Mm,
So, like, judgment is a flashlight that is pointing you in the opposite direction of who you really are, you know? So, like, good that you have that discernment and that preference, you know? Like, the fact that you can even be with, that's not what I want, tells me you know everything that you need to know. You can
mm,
feel what it is that you do want. So that's really all our judgment is used for, is like that personal orientation into our individuality.
mm.
So I just want to say you're already doing all of this, which is also why I cried because it's so aligned with like everything that I wanted to say about like what is the month of June? You know,
Mhm.
like we're still doing it. We're just kind of like digging down into it, letting it incubate, putting some juice on the seeds. Like it's just getting richer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll come back to that word richer with the card pull when we
Mm.
do it in a little bit. But beautiful. I love this question. Why am I here? And I think what initially comes up, and I think probably what many listeners can relate to, is this first, when you ask that question, why am I here? Why do I think I'm here? There can be this moment of panic almost of like, ooh, existential crisis approaching, opens up that can of worms, this black hole of why are we here? What is life? What is humanity? It can really open up these massive, overwhelming to some extent questions about our existence and life and humanity. And so I want to speak to that for anybody who had that initial gut reaction of, oh my gosh, I don't know why I'm here. I can't even begin to think about that. I need to think about what's for dinner tonight. It's like
100%. Thank
that
you.
feels big and hairy and scary. And what you are also saying is it's just about looking at why am I here today? For me, I'm sitting in my little cottage, which I've talked about with you. And after my separation, it's like, why am I here in this little cottage? Oh my gosh, look at what it has unfolded over the last year. Me moving out of my home. Well, why? It's like you can kind of unpack these breadcrumbs, talking about the GPS, knowing where you're at so that you know where you're going. It also tells you, look at the map that led you to this location. If you know where you're at on the GPS, it's like, what was the journey that it took you to get here? And so for me, like I was talking about with May, I'm observing, I'm gathering the information. Why am I here today? Why am I feeling, maybe not my healthiest right now? Oh, yeah, it's because May was really challenging. I worked a lot and didn't sleep a lot, and my routine was off, and my diet was off, and all of these things. And rather than, to your point, making it a judgment on self and turning it into something negative or a way to punish myself. It's just information. And I can just understand this is why I'm here. And then I have the sovereignty and the choice to say, okay, for June, do I want to stay here? Do I want to stay in this feeling? Do I want to stay in the way that my body's feeling right now? Do I want to stay in the job, in the relationship, in the home? It's like, why am I here? There is the macro question, which I think all of us will be asking for a lifetime. I don't think any of us will ever. I honestly think that's what life is just continuing to unfold and explore that question of why are we here? But bringing it back down to that tangible for June, why am I here today and understanding where I'm at? And I just think that's so beautiful just to question it, just to be really gentle with yourself, just to be really curious. And last week's podcast episode, really, I talked so much about this exact topic. So I love that this is coming up because you and I didn't talk about, and we never really do, about what we're going to talk about on these episodes. And so that theme was very present in my last episode as well. And the other piece that you mentioned, this piece of individualization, that is a message that is coming through so strongly right now. And so I want to just amplify that as well, where when I'm talking about the stresses of work and I don't necessarily find interest in the brand of your bag or your shoes, again, I want to reiterate, not making any of that wrong, not making any of that bad. Great. It's not to say that I wouldn't have a same bag that you like or think is cute. It's just not necessarily what would be on our value sheet when we're doing our BBV. Not making any of that wrong, bad, anything, but coming back to in this world where there is so much noise and everything is online and everything is an influencer or a targeted ad, and we have all of this information coming at us. And our nervous systems are often dysregulated because of the culture that we live in and this hustle and the grind and all of these things. The message that keeps coming through to me is when it comes to these questions of who do I think I am or why do I think I'm here, what is repeatedly being shown to me is none of that are we going to find outside of ourselves. Whoever is listening right now, you are not going to find the answer to that question through Carly. You are not going to find that answer to the question through me, through our podcast, through our work, through a book, through some influencer, through the retreat, through the course, through whatever it is. It is great to have these tools. I hope that my podcast and my episodes with Carly and her work, we hope that that is helpful and a guiding light, but we aren't ever going to be able to answer those questions for you. And I think so often we are seeking outside of ourselves for these answers. And I've talked about it with my health journey over the last couple of years. What it comes back to is this individualization of our self. The answers are within us always. And sometimes that just feels frustrating and like it sucks because we want somebody just to tell us. But I also think that's why the BBV is so powerful because it comes back into us. Everything comes back inside internally. And I'd love to hear how some of the transits play into this. But when we're asking these questions, the key thing for us to remember is that these seeds, these codes, these messages, all of this lives within us. And we're not going to come to terms with these answers from any resource outside of ourselves.
Yeah. You already know. You already know. And that's like a really good place to dive into the transits a little bit, is this idea of you already know. And then that phenomenon of thinking you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Outsourcing our
interesting.
power.
Well, it's interesting as far as like the mind thinks it doesn't know and it's
Mm-hmm.
certain, and we're believing it.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many mechanisms happening for us to end up in that moment of being overwhelmed by the question of why are you here? Because like that's a mental, like that overwhelm, anxious, fast thoughts, can't think of an answer. That should be our signpost, like the rumble strips on the side of the road that like this is not a think of an answer kind of exercise.
Mm-hmm.
This is a feel an answer kind of exercise because when you kind of come down out of the mind for just a moment and just focus on your breath, take a really deep breath in and just pay total attention to your body that just accepts that oxygen and knows exactly what to do with it, and then knows exactly how to exhale and release what it does not need. That for some reason, the trees in our environment need what we exhale and we need what they create. Like, who the heck, how is it so perfect? So let's just breathe and just be where we truly are for a minute. Like, and then like just experience like being inside yourself. And at that point, like, why am I here? Well, number one, because breathing feels friggin' amazing. Like, let's just stop right there. Like,
Yeah.
that's what I'm talking about with like, why am I here? Why do you think you're here? You know? And I think our mind, it's a beautiful tool. It's a it's an off-road dirt bike that goes 200 miles an hour. Like it's fun. And if you want to chill in a hot tub, you're not on the dirt bike, you know? Like it's just a different experience. And so coming down out of your mind and being in your being, just like friggin' breathe, man. Like just be here. Be super in this exact moment where literally all you are doing is inhale and exhale.
Mhm.
Because, maybe the first place to start then is to really unpack like here.
Mhm.
Because if you're overwhelmed by that question, then you don't have a grasp on what is here. You're here. You're in this moment. And so I love the bridge that you instantly built that was like, why am I here today? Like, why am I here in this situation? And like maybe even one step further, like, why am I here in this moment?
Mhm.
And like,
Yeah, I mean, you and I talking about like, how did we get here recording this podcast together? Oh, yeah, we were in Kathy Heller's thing and there was this Facebook group. And, it's just, we don't ask that question enough because back to the point that we were talking about at the beginning of the podcast, it moves so fast. The days move so fast, the months move so fast. 10 years you were talking about moves so fast. And so we just don't ask that question, why am I here? Or if we do, we often ask it through a lens of judgment or self criticism. How did I get to this place? And sometimes that's necessary. To your point of 10 years ago, you got to the point where you were just, why am I here? I'm sick of it. I want to be somewhere else. Let me change. Very similar to my journey and initial dark night of the soul. It was like, let's just bring it all out on the table. Why am I here? I hate being here. Let's make a change.
yeah,
So it's coming back to the present moment and just it's such a reclamation of power. And that will also feed into the card that I pulled for today.
let's introduce that. What is
Okay.
that?
Okay.
Let's hear it.
So, as I did on our last monthly reading, I wanted to pull an oracle card just to kind of feel into the energy of what we are going to be talking about. So, when I went into meditation, I set the intention of, what does the collective need to know about embodying self care in this upcoming month of June, the Gemini season, the start of Cancer season? What do we need to know? And I once again used one of Rebecca Campbell's decks. This one I used is the Healing Waters Oracle deck. It's one that I work with quite often. And what was really fascinating is I work with this deck almost daily. I very, very frequently. And I don't know if I've ever pulled this card in all of the hundreds of times that I've used this deck. I don't think I've ever pulled this card. So it felt really special. And the card that I pulled feeling into this energy of June that we're talking about today is the Waterfall. And it is this stunning card. All of Rebecca Campbell's decks are so beautiful. The artwork is by Katie Louise. She's a brilliant artist. And the card itself is lush greens and blues, so vibrant, just rich, beautiful colors. And there is an image of a waterfall and a person not only standing under it, but merged with it. And they're looking up with their eyes closed, and their arms are raised up, and their palms are open. And towards sort of the bottom middle of the waterfall, it is almost like there's a gap, an opening in the waterfall. And then again, just surrounded all sides by lush green nature, flowers, and grass. And the message of the waterfall card, it says inner power, unbridled confidence, and claiming your place.
That is so perfect, isn't it?
It's so perfect. And so when I
Yeah.
meditated into the deeper message, what did my guides want me to know about this card? What was the deeper message that I needed to share and bring to this episode? And again, you and I did not have any conversations prior to, I mean, we knew we were going to do our June Astro chat, but I had no idea what question you were going to ask. You didn't know what card I pulled, nothing. And so, what I wrote when I first channeled into this card, the question that I wrote is, what are you open and available for? And going deeper into that, it was, what is the waterfall made of? Is the waterfall that is pouring down over you a waterfall of self care, of abundance, of self love, of luxury? Or is it a waterfall of overwhelm, of demands, of work stress, of tasks, of self loathing? What is your waterfall made of? And what are you open and available for? And going back, I said I want to come back to that word richer that you mentioned earlier, because the words that came to me were lush, vibrant, rich, unapologetic, taking up space. We have this opportunity for June to be a portal, to be this transitional place where, Gemini being in air sign and in the mind, and our mind can be really loud and busy. And then we're going to transition into towards the end of the month into Cancer season, which I'm a Cancer. I'm a heart feeling girl, that watery energy. And so we have an opportunity, this portal to transition, just to your point that you were making, from what can be the loudness in our minds back into our hearts. And June offers us this portal, this potentiality. And so it's really coming back to that question of, what are we open and available for? What is our waterfall going to be made of? We can't control how life fast is moving, but how can we tap into the richness, the lushness, the vibrancy of life and take up more space where we are and be unapologetic about where we are? And so, just to wrap up the card, and then can't wait to hear what your thoughts are. I'm going to read from the book what it says, which I haven't read this yet, but the guidebook for this card says, the waterfall is a place of power, incredible force, and activation. The previously calm, embracing waters of the running river gather momentum and then hurl themselves wholeheartedly towards their destiny. With wild abandon and great confidence, they leap into the unknown. Perhaps this explains why being near a waterfall is such an empowering experience. We feel the pounding energy of the waters deep within us. This card is all about embracing the power within, stepping forth and claiming your place. You've been working for this for a very long time. You've done the time. How can you embrace this moment and take your position as a leader in your life? The waterfall beckons you forth toward your empowerment, to consider what you would do if you truly felt empowered. It encourages you to step more fully into your confidence, to receive the pounding thunder of the falling water as your encouragement and your applause. What would you do if you felt empowered and confident? I've got full body chills. I can't wait to hear what you think about June's card pull.
It's a memorable moment. Like, I know I'll remember this moment for a long time. And the first thing I want to say, I want to invite you to take that card to your work and
Mm,
put it on your desk for all of June. And like, I have a card that I pulled like right after I moved into this house, and it's sitting over here because I kept it out, and the background looks like a waterfall.
mm,
And so instantly I've got that. I'm like, I'm going to move that closer to me. and like keep this contemplation present because like you said, like all kinds of things happen and we forget. And so those little nuggets of like that one little card
mm,
that like right what that's about, you know? So like a glance at that and it just like remember like why am I here?
mm,
In this now moment, why am I here? And like it's not about the answer. That was something I wanted to say about like that kind of question has nothing to do with an answer.
mhm,
It's a tool to open your brain and to get you to receive what you already know, like what's truly like already in there, like ready to rise up. And so the power, the force, the activation, gathering momentum, like I think anybody taking in this conversation, myself included, is absolutely having their momentum spurred for how much attention are you paying to what you're giving your attention to, like
mm,
what you're participating in, what you're consuming, what you're choosing to participate in, like that agency, that embracing the power within, like you don't have to be anywhere. And that's where in my awakening 10 years ago, like that one moment where I made the commitment to self-care. I've had 1,000 awakenings, it feels like, Um, but in that moment, it was like, yeah, like, why the fuck am I here? Oh, wait, I don't have to be, And it wasn't even about leaving a physical place, it was about leaving an energetic place of leaving myself alone in the dark habitually and then being miserable about it. And I'm like, nope. Okay, so therapy, number one, go to the therapist and daily self-care. 10 minutes of my attention every day, no matter what. Like, no matter what. It's a hard top priority. Lives miles above the second priority. Like that was an orientation shift that fundamentally like changed the direction of my life. And I would never be where I am right now talking to you if it wasn't for the 1,000 awakenings that happened after that, all because of just like, 5 seconds of attention
mm,
over and over and over and over. And it's a habit like any other habit. And so, just reminding ourselves of the question gathers the momentum. Like it reminds us to be curious and to reach for like what might be the answer. And so it's like really in the reaching, like it's kind of a stretcher, like a
mm,
stretching exercise, not so much like you have to have a perfect answer. So I think that's like just a softer way to orient to life in general. So I'm glad that we got to like really slow down around like that initial like I don't know about I don't know about that. Like that's too big. Like I need to plan supper, like and most days, most moments, like that's exactly what you're doing. You're
mm,
living life. Like that's what this is. Like we're living our life and we're reminding ourselves of things that feel important to remember, things that feel important to prioritize. We carve out time for it because if you don't water the seed, the plant doesn't grow. And if the plant doesn't grow, it doesn't make any food. So, like, if you want a harvest out of the insight, you got to tend it for a while. Like when you plant a seed of corn, it's like 6 months until you can harvest an ear of corn. So, like, think about an insight a lot like that. Like it makes sense that if you think at one time, it basically evaporates. Like it basically doesn't change anything, an insight all by itself. And this season is going to be full of insights. And a lot of them, like I wish I could just show you, but like I have this journal that's for this thing, and I have this journal that's for this thing, and I have this journal that's for this thing, and they're all right here. I'm working with one pen and I'm sorting my thoughts, all the things that I have to write down. And I have to write them down because it's satisfying.
mm,
My handwriting's pretty. It
mm,
feels really nice to like slow my nervous system down And like, I'll write, the slower I go, the sweeter it is. I mean, this journal right here probably has that written in here like 1,000 times.
Mhm.
I have to write it down. It's important. So
Yeah.
that's what's in the books. All right. It's not stuff to do.
Hmm.
I'm not making a to-do list. I am honoring what is flowing through me,
Yes.
which is a shit fucking ton of insights.
Yes.
So many insights. And then, like I said before, I'm very practical and I want to harvest. I don't just want an insight. I don't just want like a breakthrough that's fun for a minute.
Hmm.
I want to change my life. Like I want to experience heaven on earth. Like that's the North Star in my GPS.
Hmm.
And that's another thing I want to say about it as far as like, you know, this is maybe not like how we did just now of like honoring the people who kind of had a backup kind of reaction to that. I think we spent time and really held that place of like that makes sense and we've all been there and like it's normal. And I also want to take a moment to honor the people who didn't back up
Hmm.
because they're like, I know exactly why I am where I am because, like I said, I prayed for this. Like I programmed this destination in my GPS once upon a time, and I drove my ass here. And I wanted to come here because I couldn't imagine a funner place to be. So why am I here? Fun. I mean, it's simple, it's easy. I am here because I want to be here. And I want to be here because I'm here. Like I'm nowhere by accident,
Hmm.
like ever. I
Yeah.
don't go places for because no reason. Like, so why am I here? That answer is already like, I know why I came here.
Hmm.
And I know there are people listening who can resonate with that feeling, if only sometimes, like where in a moment, you know why you're there. These curtains that I've been dreaming about that I'm now holding in my hands, like this is why I'm here. It's like this beauty, this moment of like, oh my gosh, the way this is going to alter the quality of light coming into my space and the zen, the serenity, the peace of like finding the perfect curtains that are the perfect see-through. Like, this is why I'm here.
Hmm.
Like the mind takes this question and destroys it before you can ever play with it,
Yeah.
like, so I want to basically flip it a little bit as far as when you really stick with that practice of being real about why am I here? Why am I doing this right now? And you do that for a while. Again, you don't go places that you don't want to go. Like you're nowhere by accident. You're not held prisoner anywhere. There's a voluntary choosing of like all the things that are in the pile. And again, like to your point of like, if I fully embraced my power within, what would I create?
Hmm.
Like, what would I choose? Like, what would I choose to spend my time on? And this is a very abundant way of thinking, like a lot of people are feeling like they're maybe more involuntarily giving their time to things because they have to, because they need something, and like they're meeting their need, but they really don't love how they're having to meet that need. So they hate that they have to do this, but they need the thing, so they're stuck. Like I think a lot of people can probably like pick at least one of those that they got going on. And even somebody who's never anywhere by accident, let me just say, like, even within a conversation, things can veer off into places you don't want to go. I don't want to go there. And like, you're taking me against my will, even though I chose the conversation and I love you so much. But like, now we're going off over here and I didn't consent to go there. So like choosing where do you want to go and having that boundary of no, thank you.
Hmm.
I see where you want to take me and I love you so much. And if you want to go over there, like I don't care about that. Like, I'm cool, whatever. But I don't want to go over there.
Yeah.
It doesn't look fun to me over there. It scares me a little. It feels yucky and hurting me, and I don't want to go over there. and like you get to say that
Mm-hmm.
even if nobody else, like this happened just this morning where my friend, we're having a thing on Sunday, and there was a group of us that did this before, and we're coming back to like do this thing again. And so like the group is kind of already set, and somebody asked like, hey, somebody wants to come. I was telling them about our last session and they are really interested and they want to see, they just want to observe. Like, and this person asked my friend, and my friend is telling me. And so in my mind, like when she says, like, do you care if they come? I'm like, no, I couldn't care less. Like, it's just not a thing for me. Like, they can be there, they can not be there. It does not change my experience whatsoever. My friend said, no, they cannot come because that will be one more person that I'll have to pay attention to. And I was like shocked at it felt like a very intimate moment with my friend where like it was one of those moments where this human is creating things that I never could have created. Like she's blowing my mind by saying this thing. But like, wait, what? Like it was just like a dissonant, awe-filled moment of like appreciating individuality,
Sure.
and then honoring like, what if, like here's the image that just flashed in my mind, and I do not mean this to imply anything about like the prior situation, just like the relationship of like a police officer and a drug dog, like the police officer can't smell the things,
Mm-hmm.
but the police officer believes the dog
Yeah.
because it knows the dog can smell things. So, like, I'm the police officer in that moment that she said no. I mean, I felt like I instantly was like, okay, then never mind. Don't invite the lady. Like, you're sniffing this out and you said no. So, like, yeah, like she is way more sensitive to energy than I am.
Mm.
And so, kind of comes back to that BBV
That's what
type
I was just gonna
situation
say.
of like her brilliance to read
Yep.
things. I mean, like she's on my team. So if she's saying no, then I'm gonna listen.
Yeah.
Because like I trust that. Just like the officer trusts the drug dog and like what it can sense, that even though the officer can't sense that, I was a whole hell yes. I was gonna let the dude go. And then the drug dog is like, no, you don't. Who's the expert in this moment, and who are we listening to, and who are we trusting, and are we doing the thing, are we not doing the thing, why are we doing the thing, why are we not doing the thing? Like I just want to honor that it's not normal to treat every single decision in the day with this level of like intentionality or like contemplation or like whatever. And fortunately we all have intuition, which is quicker than strategy anyway,
Mm-hmm.
which again is just another bid for like come down out of your mind and drop into your body and feel what you already know,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I think I don't even know where I started with all of that. Maybe the card reflection of like take it to work with you,
Mm,
and
yeah.
as like a grounding token, like a little memento of energy that then just kind of gets to titrate and incubate alongside you for
Mm-hmm.
a while.
Yeah. Thank you. I received that invitation and I will do just that. Something that came to mind is, I'm the same. I have 3 journals sitting over on my meditation chair right there. I have 1 journal sitting on my desk where I'm sitting right now. I'm with you there,
It's
and different
important.
things go into all of them. Yeah. And to that point, 2 things came up. One is, you were talking about how when you're writing in your journal and you have beautiful handwriting, and the softer you go, the sweeter it is, and how you're writing that, and these insights are coming down, and you're getting these intuitive hits and this intuition and these nudges as you're writing. I spoke about this, I think, at some point on the podcast. I was working through Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way book, and it's like a 12-week writing program. Beautiful book. I've talked about it and linked it in past episodes. And one of the exercises that you do every single day for 12 weeks is you write 3 pages. They're called your morning pages. You write 3 pages, free write, don't stop, every morning, no exceptions. And she talks about this in the book at length, and what my experience was, even as somebody who journals really regularly and I pull cards every day and I journal on them, and I'm just always writing. Something that will happen, and that what I would notice is, especially on, the last couple of weeks where my mind has felt really busy with work, sometimes it's not the softness and the slowness and the sweetness that's coming through my writing, and my handwriting doesn't look pretty because I am thinking about work and I'm, oh my gosh, I got to get out the door because I have 27 million things to do by 7 a.m. And so it's scribbly and it's absolutely not insightful. Maybe there's a couple of insightful things in there, but sometimes it might just be this brain dump of like, oh my God, I have this thing today and I'm stressed about this and I'm feeling this way about this and I'm feeling really insecure today and I didn't like my outfit yesterday. Like just noise. And so I want to speak to that as well, as sometimes when you're writing these things or you're in your journal, it's not always going to be the insights. Sometimes you need to clear that noise and that space. But again, I think that's where pen to paper is so powerful. Like what you were saying is when you can get it out of your head and move it literally through your body, through your arm, through your fingers, through a pen to paper, so much spaciousness happens.
Mm-hmm.
And you can clear that space and clear that energy and get it out of your mind so that there is more room for you to check in with, where am I at today? Who am I
Mm-hmm.
today? How am I showing up today? And letting those insights come through. So that was one thing that came through with what you were saying. And the other thing that you were talking about was, then I don't want to just, you said, I don't want to just have the insights. I want to live them. I want to embody them. I want to change my life, is what you said. And for me, similar to what we do on these calls, I do my own monthly ceremony where I'm reflecting on the last month and the energy, and then I'm pulling cards for myself. I have a much deeper practice about this that I'm sure I'll share at some point down the line, but then I'm feeling into the energy of the next month for myself. And for I do this for the month and I do it for the astrological season. So for Gemini season, for me personally, what was coming through and what my focus is, and I come back to it in my journal every single day. I write this every single day during Gemini season, is Gemini being about the mind and ruled by Mercury. And it's this communication. It's not just communication, mind, energy, even though there is that mind focus with Gemini. It's also how are we communicating with our intuition, with that higher self, with source, with spirit, whatever your
Mm-hmm.
flavor is. What is our internal dialogue? And then for me, that message is, how am I integrating that? How am I
Mm-hmm.
embodying that, to your point? And so it's taking what's in the mind and what's in the heart, and how can I integrate the two and act on them in my day? When my
Mm-hmm.
mind is super noisy and maybe my journal is just nothing but complaints or petty thoughts or whatever it is, just that noise, then that creates the room for my spirit to speak to me more clearly and my intuition. And then how can I take that? And when I start my day with that, how can I integrate that now and move and embody from there through my day? So going back to that waterfall, you talked about stretching and reaching. Rather than thinking of it as reaching outside of ourselves, you said it's stretching ourselves. And that image of the waterfall card with the arms lifted up and the palms open, even that image of this person being where they are at, feet rooted to the ground, arms up, being where I'm at today. What are you available for? What are you receiving? I'm not reaching. I'm not reaching for the waterfall. My arms are just open to receive it. I'm just open. I'm just available. And so, what is it that that waterfall is pouring into me? Is it the stress? Is it the overwhelm? Is it the mind? Or have I created enough space, enough of that portal, that other word that came through, to just receive the insights, the intuitions, and the downloads? And now, when I walk away from this waterfall, what am I carrying with me? And the last point that I'll make is, when I was taught meditation, one of the analogies that my mentor, Roger Gabriel, uses with meditation is it's kind of like jumping in a pool. You jump in a pool, and when you get out of the pool and go about your day, you're taking some of that pool water with you. You're not in the meditation, you're not in the pool, but what are you carrying forward with you? And so
Mm.
thinking about that with the waterfall as well as when you walk away from that waterfall, what did you receive? What were you available for? Were you reaching, or were you just stretching towards something and opening towards something? And so having that thought in mind as you move about your day through this season and asking yourselves these questions is taking that moment, that check in the morning to see where you're at. Am I reaching or am I stretching? Just open. Is my mind leading, or and I need to kind of move that through, or can I kind of integrate the two, my mind and my heart and my spirit? And you use the word North Star, which is one of my words for the year. One of my symbols, I should say. That is my symbol for the year is the North Star. And so going back to that GPS, if this is where I'm at today, if in this day, in this moment, standing under the waterfall, this is where I am, where am I going? So being where I'm at today, maybe it's not my best day. Maybe I didn't sleep very well. Maybe my chronic pain is acting up. Maybe the tasks on my work list are super overwhelming. But even where I'm at today, what is my North Star? And how can I integrate all of these things that I'm feeling, just being as myself today? How can I take that and still move towards my North Star, even if I'm not feeling embodied as my highest self today? So I just wanted to reflect some of that back to you. So many things that you said were so beautiful and landed so much with me. And again, just bringing it back to to Gemini season and that card pull. It's just I love the resonance that we're creating with all of this.
And your meditation that
Mm.
like took the card pull and like, yeah, like I feel like we very much tapped into the same little bubble of energy to pull
Yeah.
down like what's going on here today for me. What are you open and available for? I love that as like a version of the same question, like why am I here? You know? And it was uncanny because I want to tell a tiny story about a hot air balloon real quick, because this was something that like popped open for me this past week that is very, very brand new. Like last month when we had our recording, it was like a few days ago that I had the BBV breakthrough. And a few days ago, I had a breakthrough where piece of my identity came online that it was already there, and now I'm claiming it and I'm aware of it. And it allowed for something to happen that almost like defied gravity. So, like, it broke the laws of physics, is what I'm saying, where, like, basically what the sensation of it physically was like, I am a hot air balloon. And my motor that like you turn on and like now it fills up the balloon and like theoretically the balloon would fly away. Everything is on, it's all working, seems to be, but I'm on the ground. And I feel like the month of May, and it had already kind of started back in April for a couple of weeks. And like there was like a 6 week period where I'm on the ground. Everything seems to be here. What the, like, why am I on the ground?
Mm.
And why am I here? Why am I here? Why am I on the ground? Like I don't like I just it palpated okay with me for a while. And eventually what happened, and I didn't realize until after this transformation, like why I was on the ground. And so I want to talk it kind of all the way through the way I experienced it. Like the transformation basically was that the motor that like is the hot air balloon, like it my anger with being on the ground like spontaneously like erupted into a 10 times the size
Mm.
motor slash bigger balloon. Like, you know, we're in the land of the imaginary. Like the physics of it just got 10 times bigger with like the force that I am flying. Okay? Like I'm not on the ground. I am not available to be on the ground. I am available to fly. And so I am flying. And courtesy of my 10 times the size hot air balloon. And what I found was like, as I'm flying away, I look down in my hot air balloon and I find that there's like a giant ass boulder that is tied to this like very thick rope. And it's now hanging off the basket as we fly away. And before, the heaviness of that boulder was enough to keep me on the ground. Like we're here. And I was sick of it. I'm not available to be here. I am available to go like this. And so here we go. Are you ready? And so I went, and basically this whole time, the 6 weeks was like this creation. I think I mentioned it last time, like the company that I'm creating. It's all here. The hot air balloon is here. It's on, it's lit up, it's ready to go. And the boulder is that, like, technically, I'm building this for something very specific. Like, why are we doing this? This is not just about Carly flying. It really is about the rope between like the hot air balloon and the boulder. Like, I hate to turn the other person into a boulder, but like their consent, they're wanting this thing. Like, do they want that? Like, I want to build it for this. Do they want that? So like I want to put that as the future location in the GPS. I want that to be the North Star. Do they want that to be the North Star? I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I don't know the answer to that question for 6 weeks. And I was like, okay, like, what are we doing? What are we doing? I was getting very, very, very restless. Okay,
Yeah.
like we're ready to go. Let's go. So I have this breakthrough. And it was courtesy of some other things that were like other breakthroughs. There was just a series of tension and breakthrough, like the maximum like pressure and then the eruption of like claiming more power inside myself. Like, I'm not this big of a hot air balloon. I'm this big of a hot air balloon, and this is no longer an issue. It like basically like in my transformation, I transformed the limitation that I was like stuck on. I turned it from a mountain into a molehill
Mm-hmm.
because I turned from a molehill into a mountain.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not big anymore. You're small compared to me. So we're going. And 2 days later, I got a yes that they do want that to be the North Star. We start conversations soon. We are doing this. So, like, the future just got one level more real. And I think that it's not an accident that the timing of how all that played out, it like the universe, Earth School, left the pressure on me
Yes.
until I could graduate, until my wings pushed open the cocoon.
Yes.
You don't limit me. I am strong. My muscles push this open. And if it's still holding me shut, then my power is still building inside the
Mm.
cocoon to be able to use my wings to push it open. So, like, it's all right on time. It's all unfolding. And that's, it's deceptively large. I think it happens like I said, these little micro bursts of our power coming online, often through annoyance, frustration, anger, rage. If you're like, that's a big expansion of your power, like coming online, but like being irritated is an invitation for more of your power to come online, for you to step more into your role as a leader of your life.
Mm.
You are nowhere by accident. And if you don't like it, then you can put a stop to it right now. Like that's yours. You have the power to do that. And I think that was even one of the pieces of the card pull was like
I
step,
was
take,
just going to say
take
that.
your position as a leader,
Yeah. I was
the
just going to say
CEO of your
everything that
life. You
you're,
are.
yeah, everything that
Yeah.
you're talking about. I was going to go back to the card because the three phrases on the card are inner power, unbridled confidence, and claiming your place. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about and what it comes right back down to claiming your place, knowing where you are, and coming back to that individual, knowing that the answers, the limitations, the restrictions, none of it is outside of us. We
Yeah.
fully, fully have the power, the knowledge, the information, the codes, the wisdom, all of that lives within us.
Yes. Yeah. And, like, being intentional is great when we can remember and we can practice it. You know, it's a dumbbell that we can lift, and we get stronger at doing that the more we practice it. But also, I want to spend just a moment on the nodes, the North Node and
Mm,
South Node. Um, they move between signs once every year and a half. And we are about to finish one of those chapters.
mm,
And in July, the new chapter starts. So June is not the end, but it is the last full chapter. So when we come back in July, we'll be like days away from
mm,
this new chapter that's starting. So I want to give us like a little seed that maybe can incubate and like help us to really like get as much juice out of this squeeze of these last like 6 to 8 weeks of the nodes being in Pisces and Virgo. So the North Node has been in Pisces and the South Node has been in Virgo since January of 2025. So that's our 18 months, January 25 to July of 26. And in the month of June, Uranus at the very beginning of Gemini is squaring the north and the south node. And it's in an almost exact square because all of this is so slow moving. This exact square, like by degree, is lasting like nearly the whole month of June. So I want to just take a second and very simply and practically unpack these 3 points because we're inside of that triangle
mm,
all through the month of June. So I think it would be helpful to kind of like this North Node, South Node, like what's the deeper journey that we've been on for 18 months? And a Virgo South Node is very much about learning the limitations of your mind. Like we were talking about earlier, like it's a dirt bike that can go across a ton of terrain very fast. It's cool. It is. And it's not the right tool for every single thing. So Virgo South Node in my most simple distillation is about learning how to get out of your mind when that is not the most productive place to be. And Virgo is often, tied to health. It's a lot about our daily routine. It's also ruled by Mercury, so it's very much of the mind. And basically, like, I'm coming from my own personal experience, like, the harshness of a Virgo South Node transit. So you can think back to January 25 all the way to now and June and July. We're ending and we're moving on to the next thing, which we have been preparing for thanks to this Virgo South Node like process that we've been in. The downside, the harshness of staying too long in the mind is that your body starts to die.
mm,
You kill yourself by overdosing on mental focus, attention, like living in the mind. It starts to break down the physical body. Like we're not really meant to do that. Like we're essentially like in a very simple way, like we're not built for the world we live in. We're built for the world that we evolved from like thousands of years ago, where we lived
yeah.
in tribes around fires and we worked the land and we hunted and we had enough food for this winter. And like, that's the pace that humans are built for. There's a lot of physical labor. We come from like walking like 10 miles a day. Like that's what we're built for. We spend way too much time in our mind and we're not very good at driving the dirt bike. And we end up hurting ourselves a lot in the process. So if you've had any health flare-ups in the last like year and a half, especially, it's about making the connection with like, how am I doing this to myself?
Mm,
I'm overdosing on my mind and I'm making myself sick. Get out of your mind, vacate the premises. You are in the wrong place. And at that time, right? There's not a right place and a wrong place. Like that's what I'm saying about the mind as a dirt bike. And sometimes it's fun or useful or whatever you're doing with it. But like the phrase goes, like the mind makes a great servant and a terrible master.
mm,
It'll kill you. It sacrifices you every chance it gets. Your body, your physical vessel, which is the only reason that you're here. Your mind is not why you're here. Your body is why you're here. Oxygen circulating, nutrients, calories going in that gives fuel to, I mean, that's why you're here. Physical maintenance is the foundation, right? So Pisces North Node, this like as we come down out of our mind and we feel our body, we feel the present moment, we be here, wherever here is at that moment that we're looking at it, it opens up the space to listen. It opens up the space for the intuition that's faster than strategy and smarter than strategy, is the part that I would say, which is the tough pill for the Virgo South Node to swallow because the mind wants to convince you that it's the expert. And that's why we sit so long in the expert's office and we listen and we listen and we listen and we listen. And when we're sick enough, we'll get up and leave and we'll go somewhere else that can actually heal us. So, this Pisces North Node is about trusting the unseen, trusting the expert you can feel, not necessarily the one that has the proof or the evidence or the history or the experience or the data to back up what they're saying. F all that. Okay, because you are an individual and nothing that has ever happened before has anything to do with who you are.
Mm,
So the expert knows nothing except what came before. So our mind is a giant pile of what came before. So
mm,
when we will listen to the intuition that's coming through any given moment, when we'll be fully present and open to, like, what do you want me to hear right now? And sometimes the answer is silence, and isn't that interesting? Like nothing. You don't need to do anything.
mm,
You don't need to contemplate anything. You're good to go.
mm,
The mind, that exercise bike, that hamster wheel, we're addicted to it. It's a chemical factory. And so
yeah.
changing the way we relate to our mind is a lot about Virgo South Node. And often the lever that forces us to do that is a physical illness that
Mm,
says, like, I can't be like this anymore because it's killing
yeah.
me. So then you change because you don't want to die. And
Mm,
that's respectable. I've been there. And so that is the dynamic of January 25 to July 26. That's what we're doing is we're reorienting how do we use our mind. We are less often relying on it as the expert. And instead, the expert is like, what are we feeling is the truth that I can feel in this moment? Infinite intelligence becomes the expert when we
mm,
stop listening to our mind's thoughts. So that's been playing out and it's still playing out. Like I said, we've got like 6 weeks-ish. I forget exactly when in July that's making that change. But this month of June, we've got Uranus freshly into Gemini and making this exact square, making this triangle to the nodes and Uranus. So this is all lit up. And Uranus is the great awakener. And Uranus gives us the gifts of making the changes for us that we have failed to make for ourselves,
mm,
but that our higher self is now demanding as far as like, why are you here? You're doing things, you're spending time on things, you're spending money on things, you're spending attention on things that have nothing to do with why you're here. Uranus is like, time's up. That was fun. And now it's over. So we're new now. We're different now. There's a couple major players changing signs in the month of June. Chiron and Jupiter. Chiron has been in Aries for like 8 years. You want to think about a time chunk, like where were you 8 years ago and what's changed since then? Well, this month of June, we're graduating from that cycle of evolution over these last 8 years. June is the graduation point when Chiron will complete, so to say, like blossom in Aries and like everything that you've been working on, which has everything to do with like the medicine that you make because of who you just are.
mm,
Who do you think you are? Right? We planted that seed and now here we are at this moment of like being more familiar with that than we've ever been. And then Chiron moves into Taurus, and that's a ride. It's an experience that it will have paid off a lot to have been practicing, like, who am I in this situation? Because I think there's going to be a lot of things to look at in the world that you have zero power to solve. And you will wish like hell that you had a 10 times the size hot air balloon to be able to lift that thing. And maybe through the pressure of seeing the thing that you're like, I hate this. I can't stand that it's like this. Maybe you will burst open into a bigger thing that is now lifting. I full body chills. Like, I have no doubt that everyone is going to have some version of this, moment. And then Jupiter, it spends about a year per sign. So we get a full lap of Jupiter in 12 years. So the last time Jupiter was in Leo was 12 years ago. And in the month of June, it's going to move into Leo, spends a year, summer to summer. We've got Jupiter in Leo. And so that's a very different vibe from Jupiter in Cancer. Leo is fun and play and romance and lust and creativity and giving birth to things and self-expression. And it's squaring like Leo and Taurus are both fixed energy. And so it's creating this square where it is absolutely like a connection point of two different things that are asking this question, why are you here?
Mm.
In a moment by moment, in a way that, like, I want to read one last thing from your BBV, and maybe this is like the perfect medicine for any kind of like this is hard or anxiety provoking or anything like that, to like soothe the mind and come back to this now moment. Coco wrote in her BBV, and I hope it's okay to say that, like,
Please.
you share your magic by being awake and honest in that place. That's it. That's it. Why am I
Mm.
here? To be awake and honest in the place that I am. And so I just want to leave you with, like, you never know who is waiting for you to be a leader and say the thing that's true, and then they light up. And like, there's a moment of opening that was initiated by somebody going first, and that could be me, that could be you, that could be any of us. Take your role as a leader. I think, that's a journey of a lifetime, that's not a black and white issue. But I do think that this is a portal,
Yeah.
like you said. And I, for one, am so excited to check in with myself in the moments along the way, be here in this moment as much as I can remember to be. Remember that the mind is my servant, not my master, and that my body already knows.
So much for us to chew on for the month of June. And I love that we're already planting the seeds for July's episode, so that we're going to come back to it. And yeah, just thank you for reflecting the things back to me that I needed to hear. Thank you for being such a friend and conscious partner on this journey with me. And I'm just, so grateful for our connection and to be able to have these conversations that are just so soul fulfilling.
Overflow, abundance, the waterfall.
The waterfall.
Like, so much washed over me, and I'm taking the pool water with me. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is my abundance. I got to be here, and I'm so grateful. Thank you so much.
As always, I am so grateful for your presence with me, and I hope that my offering through this podcast is a nourishing act of self-care for each of you. Take what you need, share what you loved, and leave the rest. If you feel like offering a small gesture of kindness to yourself in return, you can always rate and review the podcast, and remember to subscribe so that you're first to be notified when I release new weekly episodes. You can also find me on Instagram at The Self-Care Sermon. I look forward to talking to you again soon. With love, Coco.